Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. And of course we are starting with Hakur Halderson's Yggdrasil deck. This is the box, heavy duty magnetic box with a book called the Bifrost that gives you a page and a half or a page on each card, which I have not read because I'm lazy like that. Today's card is Reda, the Spirit of Lightning. Yesterday we had the Craft of Conflict. Falgnir, I think was its name. The Craft of Conflict. But today is Reda, the Spirit of Lightning. It's not the prettiest card. I do believe art should be prettier than real life. That's how Renaissance art was. Today we're doing Conan 253. This is the cover. The return of Kulan Gath as the villain. You may remember him from earlier episodes, such as Conan the Barbarian number 12, where Princess Yaila and Prince Godric were returned to the throne. This is the Dweller in the Dark. I believe this was a Savage Sword episode 2. This is Barry Windsor Smith. Conan is about 15, 16 years old, and he is coming through town, upsetting monarchies. This is Princess Yaila. She and Conan, she gets Conan's help. Look at how old this comic is. Look at the crazy ads. So, this is Conan the Barbarian 12, where Conan brings Princess Yaila and Prince Godric to the throne. This is a different artist, Dave. So this is still Roy Thomas, but Dave Hoover is drawing Conan. This is the cover. I did not look up who did the cover. It looks like Ernie Chan. I think that's Ernie Chan's signature right down here, the EC, possibly. Some of you guys definitely know better than I do. But this is Conan riding into town, and he requests an audience with Princess Yaila and Prince Godric. And before he and Hob are allowed into the throne room, they're asked to give up their weapons. Take a closer look at this cover again, would you? So that is a dinosaur skeleton from the, Museum of Natural History. I think this is where we were. Conan and Hob are being shown into Princess Yaira. And Yaira, her name is Yaira? Or is it Yaila? I think it's Yaira. It is not Yaira. It is Yaila. Y-A-I-L-A. Princess Yaila and Prince Godric. And when they get in there, they realize that Princess Yaila and Prince Godric cannot speak. They are frozen like the guy in Lord of the Rings with worm tongue. I don't remember that king's name. But look at Conan. This is a good Conan art by Dave Hoover. And there was even a little bit of a flashback, but here we get Conan in his green cape, carryover from a couple episodes ago. He is not having it. He is going to fight. And he actually helped kill this wizard way back in this issue. There should be, oh yeah, look at this. They fight this octopus. I remember this episode. We went over this. The pink octopus. I don't think it was an octopus in Robert E. Howard's novel, but it certainly works here. And wait till you see what they do with Conan when they throw him in the pit. So this is 10 years ago when Conan was a teenager. Now Conan is in his mid-20s. So let's get back to today. Fighting Kulan Goth. All these wizards wear the same outfit, and they always look like Mum-Ra, like skinny versions of Mum-Ra. Here's Hob. Hob decides he's going to get out, and Conan's going to fight, but Hob is going to bounce. And he literally jumps out of the window of the castle and rolls down the mountainside while Conan fights the city guard, the castle guard. While Wormtongue rides his floating throne. Kulan Goth. What a name. Conan finally, through sheer force of numbers, gets overtaken by the guards. Because in every episode, what are the three things? Throw a sword, go to jail, seduce a girl. Here we have going to jail. I don't think he's thrown a sword yet. I'm pretty sure he does. Hob rolls down the hill into this girl's revolution. This art, it looks very cartoony. I love it. It's very X-Men, you know. Hot girl. She's like basically Psylocke. Or Jean Grey. Or Rogue. Dave Hoover's it. Dave Hoover's got it going on. And so this girl and her revolution, they decide that they want Hob in because he knows how to fight in and out of the palace. He's just done it. He has just fought his way out of the palace. He is indispensable. And they feed him and they flatter him, and Hob can't say no. Well, Conan has been thrown into... So you saw in this last episode, Conan fought that big octopus, right? Well, now imagine the octopus has been turned inside out, okay? This giant octopus right here. Let me go back one more page. Imagine this octopus has been turned inside out and is now stuck to the walls of the dungeon, and Conan becomes ensnared in it as if it were, well, it's a vampire dungeon. It's now biting into his hands and ankles and feeding on the blood it withdraws from him and the other prisoners in the dungeon. Conan's not the only one down there. This is pretty gross. This is pretty gross. This is a good comic. I've never seen this before and I don't remember it. I haven't seen it anywhere since, except maybe Johnny the Homicidal Maniac trying to keep his wall wet. And meanwhile, this girl and her band of adventurers are leading their raid on the palace while Conan strains with all he's worth because he realizes the longer he's there, the weaker he gets. And it's going to keep him alive as long as it can, like a parasite. And so he needs to get out while he has some strength. And they are attacking the castle at the same time. So, what happens? Conan's pulling, and they're sneaking in, and Kulan Goth shocks the girl, electroshocks her. Conan pulls a foot free, and it looks like everyone's fighting up here. But Conan starts stomping with his free foot and hurting the dungeon floor. Oh, here's what happens. She doesn't just get electrocuted. She gets hypnotized, and half of the group of revolutionaries are now fighting the other half. So she's over here. She's attacking Hob. This girl who was all infatuated with him because he'd fought his way out of the palace and was friends with Conan is now attacking him because the wizard has mesmerized them, has hypnotized them, entranced them. It's called entrancement in this book. And that stuck out because of where the hyphen was. It was entrancement, entrancement. But Conan gets free, pulls the other guy free, and we see that his hands and feet are nothing but bones, and that his skin was attached to the dungeon itself. It's kind of gross. Very good horror. Very much horror, you know? And there's an ad for Spider-Man. Conan gives this, so here's another reason why this can't be a cartoon. This prisoner says, "Please kill me," and Conan does, and then he gets a sword down here and attacks the dungeon itself and murders the dungeon, which is really kind of cool. Fights his way out of the dungeon to the throne room, and the wizard sees him, and all hell breaks loose, as they say. And here we get the thrown sword. Conan throws the sword at the wizard, and it sticks in the bones of his pterodactyl, which is kind of hilarious. Flying pterodactyl. Flying pterodactyl skeleton. Which doesn't slow it down, but it does free the castle, the citizens, of the wizard's influence, and Princess Yaila and Prince Godric wake up again, and they recognize Conan. That's right here. This is where they come in and recognize Conan. Conan says he'll hang out and have dinner with them, but he has to leave tomorrow. He'll explain what happened because they've been in a trance and they've basically been asleep for a couple years. It hasn't been the full 10 years, but it has been a while. And here's the final page. So this is not 9 panels the way some of our, I don't know how many pages this is. This might be more than 17. I didn't count them. But here we get 3 panels on the last page where they're basically letting Hob decide if he wants to run away or if he wants to come clean about his previous workings at the Capitol. Give me just a moment, excuse me. Oh, it's not a big deal. Okay, so so Hob, is Hob going to stick around for a good meal, or is he going to go on the run? Hob doesn't look like a guy who runs much. He looks like he's going to stick around and trust it to a couple beers. And considering how little Hob had actually done to offend Conan in the earlier issue, I wouldn't be surprised if his offense against this king and queen was rather minor. I don't remember. They explained it, but it wasn't very impressive. Excuse me for a second. It is pretty impressive to see them reference a Conan comic from the very first year. This is the first year, number 12, right? This is the 12th issue. The 1-year anniversary, Barry Smith. Barry Smith only did, I want to say, like 25 or 30. And I think he came back for a couple annuals and stuff, but I mean, you know, how do you draw the line between your best work, delivering what they pay for? Like, where do you find the happy medium? Especially when you're a young artist. He was still really new. I mean, he'd been doing it for a year, but he only did a few X-Men issues before this. And he did Conan #1. So you're a young artist thrown into a new title that's a big hit. Do you put every waking moment into it and neglect your health and your sleep and your family? And that's what most people do. And then the company pays you just enough so you can pay your bills, so you don't get a big head and go to work somewhere else for more money. Well, that's what happens to film directors. That's what happens to actors. That's what happens to artists of every other sort. It just doesn't happen with comic book artists. And I suppose it does to an extent. And then you get things like Image. The most important thing about Image was when Todd said it would have been easy for them to keep us. Do you know what I mean? We see that going on. That's the culture war. It would have been easy for them to keep us. But the ratchet only turns one way. The bully, once a bully hits you, he always comes back and hits you again. Which is one of the things I want to talk about. We talked about speculation a little bit. I ran my mouth about doing comics for money versus doing comics for sort of making a living and spiritual fulfillment, and then trusting in the audience to know something good. But there are a few different arts you can give yourself to with or without monetary result that I think is still worthwhile. One, health, working out, being healthy. You don't need to make money doing that. You don't need to become a trainer. Just because you're doing really well and you're consistent and you're disciplined, it does not mean you need to start trying to make money from whatever it is you're doing. Same thing can be said for music or art or anything else you want to do. Cooking, design of any sort, engineering, anything you want to do in your spare time. Just because you're really good at it doesn't mean you have to try and make money at it. Trying to make money from fiction is, I think, more rewarding than just putting it on the shelf. There's something to be said for painting and not trying to sell those paintings and just, when you stack them up and you finally have enough and you have to get rid of them, maybe sell some. There's something to be said for that. There's another thing to want to be a painter and to want to do gallery shows and to be ambitious as an artist. I saw a meme today. It was something about artists people get into art because of like bad childhoods or like all these negative things. And I suppose that's true, but look at the other side. Here's 3 things that people get into that they never seem to get out of and never seem to be happy doing. 1, money. Money getting, money chasing, money selling. Those people never seem, even when there was a billionaire a while back who committed suicide. Why should you ever commit suicide if you're a billionaire? What is it that you can't get that if you're a billionaire? Self-respect? So the other 2 are really easy. Sex and drugs. You get into sex and drugs for a living and getting yourself, and that really, I think that comes back to self-respect. There was a scene, I live in media, fiction addiction, really, more so than working out or riding skateboards. There was a scene in the new Battlestar Galactica with Jamie Bamber as Apollo, and I'm spacing on the guy's name who played Gaius Baltar, and he was the voice of a character in something I just saw recently. And there's a really good scene in Battlestar Galactica in the later seasons where Baltar says to Apollo, and Apollo's last name is Adama. I don't remember what his first name is, but he's Edward James Olmos' son in this series. And Baltar says to him, "What, I didn't pass the Adama test?" And Apollo says, "Are you kidding me? You were one of the best of us. You were Gaius Baltar. You didn't pass the Baltar test." So that's really, and you could see for everyone in the scene, that was a cutting remark. That was the truth cuts deep, Baltar had sort of been the de facto antagonist / villain, and they forced him to be that. They wrote his character that way, which, whatever, it's a fucking drama. There has to be a villain. But that was as cutting as when Arya Stark cut Littlefinger's throat. I mean, that was in front of a room full of people in a small community. To get emasculated like that, you have no more influence in the community, And it's that easy to lose all your influence in a small community. Like, they're out in space, So it would be just as easy for me to lose I don't have any influence in Comicsgate. Whatever influence, see, here's the thing, this is what I know. If I'm going to ever be any sort of king, it's going to be by my own hand. It's not going to be because I worked for someone. It's going to be because of what I did. It might be because I worked with someone, and because Jay Arcila's art is magnificent. I might put in the angel that I spent the last couple days on. It's really just an armored girl with no wings and a fancy helmet. But she's an angel, and this is Jay's work, and I'm lucky enough to color it. And if I'm a good enough writer to con him into working with me for free, then I have to balance the guilt. And believe me, there is fucking guilt. It is heavy. It has cut us off from talking to each other for years because I can't afford to pay him, and he is doing all this artwork for free, and it is worth way more than what I'm writing, but what I'm writing is worth billions of dollars. So hopefully the two of us can lift each other up, me doing the colors and writing and him doing the art. Hopefully that'll be enough. Hopefully that'll be enough to get enough attention and to produce the video game. With these comics that we do together and the video game that I'm working on, the racing video game, fingers crossed that'll be enough that I don't need a crypto budget. And I can just do it with, extra cash from the day job. And even if I can't, here's the thing that matters. Even if I can't, it's a worthy goal. It's a worthy goal that keeps me out of sex and drugs and chasing money. Chasing money in crypto or speculating comics. If I was a comic book speculator, I never would have opened this number 12. I've got number 2 right here. I don't have number 1, but as soon as I get a version of number 1, believe me, we're going to review it on this channel. That's the champagne that I want to buy. Jay has my long box of Savage Sword. But, I want to review color comics right now. I really want to look at and focus on color comics. I have a soft spot in my heart for black and white comics, but at the same time, I want to color them. I loved The Tick, and I loved that when The Tick got popular, they colored it. And I am heartbroken that when Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and The Crow got popular, that they didn't color them. Like, why not? Your audience will pay for it. Your audience will pay for it. Ethan, I would buy a Cyberfrog skateboard. You can get them for $60. And make them glow in the dark, which would be cool. That'd be really cool. So yeah, everything about this, that's saying that if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Well, when does it have to make dollars? Right away? There's this exercise they do for entrepreneurs in graphics and art, advertising, at media, marketing. I think this was a marketing seminar that I watched online. And they had the people on everyone take out, there's a postcard, blank postcard and a marker, right? Everybody draw something, just scribble something for 30 seconds and then hand it to the guy on your left or your right or whatever. And this new person now take 3 minutes and turn the card over and write what it is, how much you're going to sell it for, and how you want to market it. And they said that is a very good representation of how much time is spent producing the product versus how much time is spent marketing it. 3 times the amount of time, energy, and effort are spent selling whatever is created in the first place. That's what they put it at. So this comic, this magnificent piece of work by Barry Windsor Smith, which is really fine art, commercial art, but fine art nonetheless, that he spent probably a month creating. Someone else spent 4 weeks inking and or coloring. I don't know if he colored this himself, but it had to be written, it had to be edited, it had to be lettered, it had to be printed, marketed, filled with ads, marketed in that it was advertised in I don't know if they were doing Diamond back then, but I know they were doing it in the 90s. So solicited, do you know what I mean? Every company has a sales department. So all of that work, 3 times the amount of work and effort to sell whatever it is that you're making. Now, the better you make this, the easier you make this. This has to get done. This doesn't have to get done. If you're doing this because you love doing it, you may as well spend the extra time to take it from 80% to 90% to 100% to the best in the field. When you're talking about a field like this, when you first get into it, it seems daunting because you're comparing yourself to everyone who used to work in the field, to everyone who's working in it now, to everyone who might work in it in the future. And you want to make a name for yourself in all of history. But in truth, it's usually a very small group of people in any field who are doing what you're doing. And if you are humble enough and sincere enough, they will be happy to give you advice, to help you, to show you the route, if you ask correctly. And that means if you're sincere enough and determined enough, that means making use of all the resources around you before you interrupt a professional and ask them for their time. The first thing they're going to say is, let me see how far you've got. And if the farthest you've got is some sketches that don't have borders and don't have any dialogue, he's going to say, you got a long ways to go before you can communicate what it is you want to sell to someone like me, who now has to go back to work where I'm actually making real money doing this. And for him, it may not be fun. I've met some guys. I met the storyboard artist for The Simpsons a while back, and he had real stress. He had real stress. And I never forgot, one of the things, one of my art, I'm really glad my career has taken me the way it has. One of the smartest thing one of my art teachers said to me at animation school was, if you get to the point that you're doing art for a living and you hate doing it and you're stressed and you're burnt out and you have to get it done and it looks like crap and it feels like crap doing it, well, guess what? It's going to come across to the audience too. Because art is special, it's unique in that the vibe you bring to it comes across in the work that you produce. And I loved working in this. I hope Jay loved working on it. I haven't been able to pay him for it yet. I absolutely love the work I'm doing now. I would pay for the opportunity to do this. So, that's a unique place to be. And I'm out here every day saying to you guys that wherever you are in life, you can get to that place. You can get to that place where you are doing what it is you love to do, where you would pay to do this, whether it's racing cars, making music, riding skateboards, making skate ramps, teaching kids how to swim, as Ben Franklin famously did for a couple summers, I guess, to make money. So yeah, there's something out there for everybody. I know I had a point here that that I didn't complete. I'm trying to remember what it is, but it's escaping me. So just hope I get to it tomorrow. All right, see you guys.